Michael Frazis, what sort of company news, what equity story for you has made 2020?
I think it's probably a couple. I mean, the first one was, this was the year of the life sciences. It was a year, it's never been cooler to be in medical research. It's never been a better time to be a biologist. So I think the company that was like most prominent, globally was probably Moderna. That company's been around for a while. They had a pretty decent pipeline of drugs, but obviously the coronavirus vaccine got pushed right to the front. And that was actually the first mRNA vaccine that was approved. So that's kind of like validated their entire pipeline. So I think it was a really interesting company. They've done some really good work, and it was also very controversial. A lot of executives were selling, a lot of investors were shorting the stock because the executives were making money. I think it's one of those examples where we shouldn't be so angry if somebody in biotech is making money. People do that in real estate all the time. For some reason, it really got people's shackles up in Moderna.
And probably they've done all the wrong things as a result of that sort of first level thinking, right? Like how much has the share price gone up this year?
I think it's gone from about $20 to $150. It's probably 7-8 times.
Yeah, lazy 7-8 fold profit.
But yeah, hallmark of 2020, nobody'd heard of Moderna, really, this time last year. So quite a story. Hey, Scuddy, we didn't come to you in buy now, pay later, because I think we know your views on that one. You're going to think that Tesla is one of the stories of 2020.
Absolutely, on so many different levels. Tesla is probably the most divisive company that I've come across. There are so many people who are pro and con, but you've got to look at what's going on with the market capitalization of that company. Being regarded as being worth the same amount of 8 or 9 of the world's biggest car makers makes it vulnerable to a correction. But of course, Elon Musk, as a genius, a marketing genius when it comes to going and stirring those emotions, no one can go and doubt his ability to go and tell a story, and obviously the future as well. So one of the clear things that have been is 2020 is that Tesla story and Elon Musk.
Curious, Michael. Again, this time last year, what was Tesla doing? Not much.
Yeah, I think it had traded sideways for years. Yeah. And back then it was still unresolved. The bulls and the bears kind of had it equally. Nobody knew which way it was going to resolve. But now it's up, so many times. It's pretty clear it's resolved in one direction, and that's up.
And I think it was one of the most shorted stocks on the market at this time last year.
It was, yeah. It's been a huge transfer in value. And again, it was probably the professional investors that were short and the retail investors that were buying it. So this was probably one of the years where retail really did quite well. If you think about what happened in March, it turns out it was actually institutions that were net sellers, and it was retail Robin Hood crowd that were net buyers. So it's really easy to mock them and tease them, but in reality, they had a very good year in 2020.
And is that sort of one of the thematics that you will be watching for in 2021? And not just Tesla, but some of the more green thematic stocks?
Yeah, these were some of the best performers. It wasn't just Tesla. Plug Power, a hydrogen stock, went up 10 times. A number of the kind of solar panel inverter makers, did 3, 4, 5 times. There were astonishing returns in the renewable space, and that's probably going to continue because people want to live sustainably. Governments want to kind of incentivize that, and investors want to own the shares. So if these companies perform well, there will be a bid for the stock.
That's the key thing, though, isn't it? We've had so much of a narrative-driven share price rally in these sectors because the story is good, the future is bright, generally speaking. But at some point, the fundamentals have to come through, don't they? Because there's only one variable left to give if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, but I think the fundamentals are coming through. If you think about it, this was a year where kind of the companies on the forefront of innovation, renewables, even space, development, life sciences, these were the sectors that did extraordinarily well. And most of the market actually kind of lagged. And that could be the case going forward. But it wasn't just the share prices, it was the revenues and the profits that came through as well.
That battery thematic, sorry to interrupt, that battery thematic is a clear one that I know is going to be there for many, many years to come. I just wonder with the likes of Tesla, whether potentially we're trying to price in that it will be the number one manufacturer of EVs around the world. I'm not sure there's been enough attention paid to some of the other established car makers that are going down that path. So that's one of the trends I'll be looking for in 21 to see whether that realization that, hey, there are others out in the space doing similar things that could potentially go and exceed what Tesla's already doing right now.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's 2021. Andrew, I've asked you to nominate a deal of the year or, there was a lot of M&A even amidst this COVID pandemic. So what sort of rates with you?
Well, this is a real in the weeds, sort of way down the smaller end of the spectrum, but I thought it was just so 2020. It's a little company called, well, not so little a company anymore, called Pointera.
Oh, yeah.
And these guys do 3D geospatial mapping. And, it was 5 cents a share, something like that. we had this gentleman called Bevan Slattery, who many will be familiar with, a very successful tech entrepreneur, went and bought a little chunk of the business, about $2.5 million worth at 5 cents.
I remember it.
And that sent shares from 5 cents to 25 cents in the space of a month. Today, it's up 10x from that point, which has just been phenomenal. Put that in context, that's about 45 times the company's annualized contract value. So what is fascinating about that is, one, it drives on the theme of the retail investor, because that's been all retail that has driven that. It drives on the theme of how powerful narrative can be in this space. And it drives on the theme too of what we've seen in the tech space as well. As long as you've seen a little bit of sort of top line growth there, the market is prepared to pay very, very high multiples for that. And any sort of traditional value argument has just sort of fallen by the wayside there. So it's going to be fascinating to see, even when these companies do, to Michael's point before, fundamentals are coming through, that's great, but will they come through for all of them in this space? And will they come through to an extent that is going to justify the valuations? Because even great companies, you can pay too much for them.
Okay, and what is your thesis on that front?
In general,
yeah.
I just think that I'm very happy to lean on history here. I think there'll be spaces that are very successful longer term from an industry play. I think there'll be absolutely some big name winners in there, but not every company can win. It's like we saw with so many other sectors where people not that long ago would say, point to China, hey, we're going into China, it's a huge market, we're going to win all this market share. Well, some will, but probably 90% won't, because that's capitalism, that's competitive markets. So it's going to be fascinating.
All right. Now, look, Scotty, I'll put this to you first. Clearly, we had the black swan of all black swans this year. What do you think we're going to be sitting here discussing this time next year, at the end of 2021?
Well, my overriding theme at the moment is that there's so much good news pricing when it comes to the economy, and markets reflect that, of course. I just think that perhaps we've gotten too far ahead of ourselves. I think we'll be sitting here in 12 months' time thinking about, well, the recovery is underway, but maybe not as ferocious as what many people were anticipating. And there will be still lots of lingering effects from this pandemic in the years to come. One area that I'm particularly paying very close attention to is valuations in some of those commodity names. I know there's so much optimism in that space, but it really comes down to what's going on with China's credit cycle. So that's one area that I'll be definitely paying attention to, and a risk that I think we might have been talking about in 12 months' time.
Yeah, I'm going to put it to you, Michael. I mean, we're excited about the biotech space. We're excited about a lot that's happening on the green thematic front. This time, 2021, where are we going to be at?
Maybe I'm biased, but I think your kind of returns over the next year, 5, 10 years will probably depend on how much you allocate to these innovative sectors. Like, I truly believe that in my bones. I think we saw it this year. I mean, this year there were two things that kind of drove returns. It was like, did you stay steady in March? And then how much did you allocate to these forward-looking sectors that were investing and growing fast? And I think that'll be the case going forward in 2021 as well. The trick will be to kind of keep your head clear, stay steady, and stay allocated to these really fast-growing, exciting companies. They're really changing the way we live. That's how I feel anyway.
Good. And hopefully we're through this pandemic. Hopefully on the health front, things are much improved around the world. Andrew, 2021, what's it going to be?
My favorite forecast ever was from JP Morgan, not the business, but the man from the early 20th century capitalist. And when he asked that question, he had this wonderful response was, it will fluctuate. And I think that we can be sure. And I think also what 2020 has shown is that those that have held their nerve, those that have been forward looking, to Michael's point, they're the ones that will do well ultimately. So it's going to be scary, and that's what markets are always like. It will be a bumpy ride even when things go well, but those that hold their nerve, focus on the things that they can control, they'll probably be the ones that do okay.
All right, let's end that conversation here. Scotty, we'll see you in the newsroom. Andrew Page, thank you. We look forward to seeing you in the newsroom as well. Michael Frazis from Frazis Capital Partners. Hope you have a wonderful holiday, and we'll look forward to speaking in 2021 as well.